We can't leave Mesopotamia without talking about the Babylonian creation story. It's called the Enuma Elish from the first lines of the poem, and it tells us the story of the Babylonian views concerning creation. So it makes a good comparison between what we get in Scripture concerning the creation of man and how the Babylonians viewed their beginnings. So here again is Mesopotamia. You can see we've talked about Sumer. There is Babylon. There's Akkad. And you can see the Fertile Crescent as it comes over to where Abraham and his descendants will eventually land. And before we're done with the patriarchal stage, we'll be sitting along the Nile in Egypt. So this is Mesopotamia, and this is one of the works of literature that has come out of Old Babylon. The Enuma Elish tells the story of Marduk. He's the patron deity of Babylon. He's the son of Ea, and Ea is the former god, and as the power of Babylon begins to grow, the power of Ea, the patron god of the past, turns his powers over to Marduk, the new young, the new strong, the new up-and-coming god. And as Hammurabi begins to make Babylon a dominant state, then the powers of another god, Enlil, come to Marduk as well. And so Marduk begins to grow in power until he will be the chief among the gods. So we're going to learn as we look at Enuma Elish how Marduk came to power. The story is actually told on 7 tablets. Number 5 is missing, so we're not really sure what was supposed to be taking place there. The copy that we have comes from the library of Ashurbanipal, which means it's a 7th century document, but we have pictures carved from much earlier about Marduk and Tiamat and the rest. Stories from 16, or parts of the story or artwork from as far back as 1800 BC. So this is an older story than the copy that we have. It's an important source for helping us to understand the Babylonian worldview, to see how they thought about the world around them. So what would happen is, as the story was told and retold, the story begins to grow and begins to become more enculturated in wherever that story goes. So the story changes to meet the new culture that comes into contact with it. The story is basically a civil war among the gods, and Tiamat and her supporters are going up against the rest of the gods, and those gods are looking for a champion, a new, young, up-and-coming god to deliver them, and Marduk happens to be just the right kind of god, and he is promised the position of head god if he succeeds in putting down the unrest caused by Tiamat. Tiamat is the goddess of the primordial sea. She's pictured as a dragon, and then her champion, Kingu, is the champion of Tiamat's army, and he possesses the tablets of destiny. And so that's going to be part of the story as we go along. Now, the problem with the story of the Enuma Elish is every once in a while we'll come to a gap. We don't have that many copies, so we don't always know what word or what phrase or what paragraph was to go in a certain spot. So the translators have a difficult time of putting the thing together. But it's an interesting story. And what I thought I would do to end this section of the Enuma Elish is give you the story of the battle between Marduk on the right and Tiamat on the left. Are you ready? Fasten your seatbelts. It is a bumpy ride. His great weapon the Lord raised, mounted his fearful chariot, hitched to it 4 teams of 2, reined them to his side, destroyer and pitiless, trampler and swift, open of lips, whose teeth carried poison, who knoweth not weariness, trained to destroy. When he placed to his right fierce battle and resistance, to his left relentless warfare, subduing all bands, he wore his armor. His aura helmet was attached to his head, and he drove off. The Lord, moving fast on his road, set his course toward the sounds of Tiamat enraged. So they came together, Tiamat and Marduk, sage of the gods. They advanced into conflict. They joined forces in battle. He spread wide his net, the Lord, and enveloped her. The evil wind, the rearmost, unleashed in her face. As she opened her mouth, Tiamat, to devour him, he made the evil wind to enter, that she closed not her lips, and the storm winds, the furious, then filling her belly, her inwards became distended, and she opened fully wide her mouth, and he shot there through an arrow. It pierced her stomach, clave through her bowels, tore into her womb. Thereat he strangled her, made her life breath ebb away, cast her body to the ground, standing over it in triumph. He rested, the Lord, examining her body, would divide up the monster, create a wonder of wonders. He slit her in two like a fish of the drying yards. The one half he positioned and secured as the sky. Therein traced he lines for the mighty gods, stars, star groups, and constellations he appointed for them. He determined the year, marked out its divisions. For each of the 12 months appointed 3 rising stars. Having established the rules for the astronomical seasons, he laid down the crossing line to make known their limits. And that none should make mistake or in any way lose speed, he appointed conjointly with it the Enlil and Ea lines. The great sun gates he opened in both sides of her ribs, made strong the lock fastening to left and right. In the depths of her belly he laid down the Elati. He made the moon to shine forth, and trusted to him the night. So there you are. There's the battle. Tiamat and Marduk come together in fierce conflict. Marduk is able to beat Tiamat, and he cuts her body into 2 parts, flings one into the heavens, and creates the skies, and the other part he makes the waters and other parts of creation. So there we have the battle between Marduk and Tiamat. I think you'll enjoy reading the Enuma Elish.